Brothers and sisters, thanks for joining me again tonight. And I think this time I want to talk about D&D again. Imagine that. It's been a lot of that lately. I think it all started because I saw Elon Musk wanted to buy Hasbro and D&D. Hasbro owns Wizards of the Coast and they own D&D. So if you guys are interested in that kind of content, take a look over at my channel. I've got a couple other D&D videos out there. One I'm playing D&D with a group of for modern audiences, and then another one of kind of why should Elon Musk buy D&D. So if you're interested in that, go watch those. Hey, if you like this kind of content, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, hit the bell, and hey, leave me comments if there's something else you want to see. But today, I want to talk about this article I found over on That Park Place. Dragonlance creator Margaret Weiss astonished that Wizards of the Coast did not wokeify the characters in new Player's Handbook. It really does look like Wizards of the Coast has got a woke DEI problem when even Margaret Weiss is talking in these kind of terms. I mean, she wrote some great novels back in the day, the Dragonlance books, and they were awesome. Dragons of Autumn Twilight, and the two brothers, Raistlin Magir. If you haven't, you should go read these books if you're into heroic fantasy. I mean, Raistlin is like one of the great, magic users. Sort of like Feist's Pug or Melamber from the Magician series. But anyway, I digress. Let's get back to this story. So, Dragonlance creator Margaret Weiss astonished that Wizards of the Coast did not wokeify her characters in the new Dungeons and Dragons Player's Handbook. So, I guess this is a picture. Oh, yeah, Dragons of Autumn Twilight from 2000. Wow, 20 odd years ago. It was a great book, and this is a great picture. Whoever the artist is, I think this does a good job of capturing heroic fantasy. So good job on this one, Wizards of the Coast. Ex-user Kevin Lamb shared artwork of the Dragonlance characters Karaman Majir and Raistlin Majir and Kitiara Uthmatar battling a dragon. He wrote, "Color me shocked that Dragonlance characters somehow squeaked by unscathed in the new Player's Handbook artwork." Lamb added, three physically fit, white, heterosexual heroes looking badass against a genuine threat. Someone at Wizard of the Coast is definitely getting fired for letting that slip. Oh, wow. So, yeah, I think he's kind of speaking to the choir of the direction Wizards of the Coast has been going lately. Weiss, so he got lucky. Weiss actually reacted to his post, and since they're her characters. I'm astonished. Dragon looks pretty badass too. It looks like a red dragon to me. Yeah, it's a good picture. The Raceland's in trouble, standing right, a magic user standing there right in front of a dragon. That's not a good place to be. You need some room to throw that fireball. Well, I guess it's a red dragon. You don't need as much room for the lightning bolt. One user challenged Weiss, writing, "Do you really want to endorse an anti-diversity and inclusivity message?" She responded, "I wasn't endorsing anything. I'm just glad to see Raceland and Karaman." Yeah, in today's world, you just cannot get away from diversity and inclusion, unfortunately. It's like, can we just enjoy the read? Can we just enjoy the artwork? Can we just play D&D? It seems like that's not to be so in today's world. In another response, she also posted, "I think he was being ironic." Oh, okay. So she thinks he was being a little snarky there. Okay, fair enough. And then Weiss's comments and reaction come in the wake of the player's handbook art being lampooned for cartoonish diversity inspired caricatures and promotion of homosexual activity. Ex user Thor Odinson lampooned the new artwork featuring orcs writing, "Holy shit, Dungeons and Dragons has gone out of its way to make D&D lame." All right, let's look at these pictures. Orcs now and orcs then. So let's look at these. Orcs now and orcs then. These are orcs, really? um, all right. Here's a farm girl orc up here, I guess. Here's orc riding like they're just regular folks. Hey, here's a falconry orc. There's another falconry orc. Um, no, yeah, this is nuts. Here I'm just gonna let it's hard finding words for this one. What do these people say over here? Lol, they untagged themselves. I guess they're talking about D&D decided to untag themselves up on Twitter. This is a joke, right? Oh no, it definitely isn't. I wonder how good the orc enchiladas are. Okay, so I guess they think these are Mexican orcs. I don't know. The mechanics are shit now. DEI shit aside, Pathfinder is closer to the traditional D&D. All right, I might have to check out Pathfinder. Pathfinder 1E is what I'm currently playing. All right, so there are substitutes for D&D, but honestly, yeah, if you don't like the current edition of D&D, there's lots of other editions. Just play those if you already have them. Like me, I've always said the gold standard for me for D&D is Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, so first edition, with all the books and supplements, and I'm okay with homebrew rules. So whatever the DM and players want to do, they can do. So that's the great thing about D&D, especially the earlier versions. There were less rules. So you just played it the way you wanted to play it. If you wanted to be inclusive, you were inclusive. If you wanted to allow, like, I played one game with guys who created a Marauder class in AD&D, and they just thought, hey, it's not fair that Rangers all have to be good. Well, Druids are neutral, and Rangers are sort of like Druid fighters, sort of back in AD&D. So why can't they be evil? And so the DM allowed it. He allowed evil rangers. Why not? Later Dragon magazines had anti-paladins, I think, or Dark Knight type guys. I can't remember. It's been a while since I saw went through the Dragon magazines. So D&D is great for that. You can do anything you want. It's all about your imagination. What's your idea of heroic fantasy? That's D&D. The dungeon master is the is the storyteller, and the players. You guys are the heroes, and you're not going around doing normal stuff. You're all Conan the Barbarian. You're really the Frodo Baggins of this story, or the Aragorn, or any of these heroic fantasy type books. So that was the beauty of D&D. You could do anything you wanted to do. It just as long as the players were up for it and the DM was up for it, you can do anything you want to do. And so I think that's right. And so yeah, if you want to play Pathfinder, great, but I'll just go back and play an older version if you don't want this stuff. And if you do want this stuff, go ahead and play it. You know, you go do you. I don't really have a big problem with it. But for me, like I said, the gold standard is AD&D. That's what I prefer to play. All right, so these these are the new orcs. Here, let's see what the other picture looks like. Okay, these are the old orcs. This is what I'm used to because, with D&D, I know it looks like they're trying to make it all friendly and fuzzy and all that, but you really need a protagonist. You really need orcs, dragons, goblins, beholders, demons, because you need to go fight them. This is what heroic fantasy is. I mean, these look a lot like the orcs out of Lord of the Rings, where a lot, to be fair, a lot of the original D&D was probably sourced from Tolkien's work, because it's right out of Tolkien, the original stuff. So you need bad guys for the good guys to play against, or you can be, I guess, with these ones, if these are orcs, I guess you could go ahead and play evil people and go kill these nice orcs here. I guess you could do that. Hey, if that's what you want to do, go do it. Now, Gygax wouldn't like it because I think Gygax, if you look at original D&D, if you look at one first edition AD&D, Gygax definitely was biased in the direction of human characters and good characters. In the original versions, on low levels, the other races really were stronger. Elves had infravision. dwarves could find secret doors and things and traps and things, and could speak multiple languages and had some racial bonuses. That really helped in the low levels. The problem was the way Gygax and team structured it. You couldn't reach the very highest levels. So like a fighter who was human was unlimited in how high a level he could get. Now, in reality, he usually died. I had more characters die than reach, a significant level. But say a an elven fighter might only, and I can't remember, I'd have to go back and look at the book. I don't know off the top of my head, but an elven fighter might only be able to get to like 10th level. And it was similar like that on all the classes. And then also similarly, he also had a bias against playing evil characters. You could do it. You absolutely could be evil in the versions of D&D that had evil. Now, I think there were some that had lawful and chaos. There might not have been an evil, but you you couldn't play a paladin unless you were good. You couldn't play a ranger unless you were good. And and those were fun classes to play. People liked them. And this paladin especially is problematic in D&D. I was never in a group that could successfully play with a paladin for too long. They just couldn't. You couldn't have the ideological purity that you need to be a paladin, because if the whole party wasn't lawful good, you had problems with the paladin. And if you were really playing the alignments the way you should be, and if it got too out of hand, then the paladin lost his special powers. So generally, players wouldn't play with paladins, but they were a super strong character. There's no doubt about it, and people like playing with them. And then yeah, you couldn't play an orc in the original D&D. So like I said, I haven't seen the 6e yet, but I'm assuming that these are player character orcs, and they're allowing that because I know they have opened it up to a lot of different races, which is fine. There's no problem with them opening up D&D to other races. I think that's fine. If that's what the DM and players want, great. But you still need some sort of protagonist to fight in a heroic fantasy. There's got to be bad guys. So you've got to figure out, so somebody's got to be bad, somebody's got to be evil, or somebody's got to be on the other side, in this sort of situation. All right, let's get back to the story. So that is great. Orcs now, orcs then. Classic, classic. So Drunken Dillo Press, comment on X. I guess this is more of the player handbook art, including the Mexican arts. Remember when D&D book art showed badass battles and monsters and not a bunch of gay shit? Okay, fair enough. That's an opinion. I think it's pretty strong. I wouldn't say it's gay shit, but yeah, that picture doesn't look like heroic fantasy at all. I'm sorry, guys. It's a Wizard of the Coast. I think that picture, that first picture, misses the mark. The orcs now. That's not what I see when I think of orcs. I think of the Uruk-hai, whipping poor Merry and Pippin on the long run, and Aragorn, and Gimli and Legolas, chasing after them for days with, these are the things legends are made of, and tales are written about. This is what people want in D&D. I don't think people want this in D&D. This does not get me to want to buy sixth edition if this is the sample of the artwork that's in there. And D&D artwork has always been tremendous. Yeah, drawing pictures of dragons is just awesome. And then so he's got a few more pictures. I guess these are also pictures out of out of D&D. Okay, this is all right. Yeah, that's okay artwork, but it doesn't. I don't really have too big a problem with that. This is okay, but what's with the green elf chick? Okay, had maybe she's from Underwater Elf. I don't know. I haven't ever seen. Oh, there's a purple elf too. Okay, elves come in all colors now. Okay, that's new for me too. What are people saying about that? Oh, Lord Brian Urso, utter shite. God, where is Larry Elmore and Clyde Caldwell when you need them? Hanging their head in shame over what this nonsense has become. Is this real? Unfortunately, cultural Marxists in the house. Okay, exactly. Yeah, it's a different take on elves, that's for sure. I'm not sure I'm a fan of this direction. What else we got here? Okay, he's got a tattoo of, is it grapes? So is he a follower of Bacchus? I guess if he's hanging the greater god Bacchus from the Greek mythos in deities and demigods. I guess that could work. What's this guy got? All right, so I don't know why he drew these. He's kind of giving him the side eye. Are these gay dwarfs? Maybe I'm putting too much on it. So I don't know. So maybe they are gay dwarfs. I don't know. I think they're dwarfs. Let's see. What were the other what do the other pictures look like? Yeah, that's all right. What is this one? Okay, so it's that one again. All right. Yeah, it's the art's definitely taken a different direction from what I remember of old D&T cover art and book art. Okay, what else we got? Clownfish TV host uh, Keenan, I'm not sure how to say that. Keenan pointed out the two dwarfs baking have tattoos of each other's beards on their arms. Oh. Okay, okay. So they are gay dwarfs, I think. I guess they're just really I guess they could just be really good friends. He wrote also new D&D hipster baristas. So I guess these are hipster barista gay dwarfs. Um, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I think it's a thing. I'm sure there are gay dwarfs out there. I just hadn't read about them before. Casimir Urbanski commented on the art of the orcs and wrote, if some random OSR publisher made a book with this illustration, the entire gaming left would be going nuts and calling them racist. Former World of Warcraft team lead Mark Kern, aka Grums, also shared Hasbro and D&D LARPers felt that orcs were racist because all they could see were black people. Guess they fixed that by by actually making them racially coded this time. Okay, so Hasbro and DVD LARPers felt orcs were racist because all they could see was black people. Orcs aren't black, they're orcs. Okay. I've never really thought of orcs being black. And yeah, orcs are racist. They kill and eat everybody, even other orcs and goblins. You're not even safe if you're another orc. They're evil. They're bad. Yes, orcs are racist. Absolutely. But I don't think they're black. Uh, I don't know. Put in the comments if I'm wrong. Maybe there are black orcs. I just thought orcs are orcs, but maybe there are black orcs. And if there are black orcs, is that bad? Who cares? They're okay. So there's black and yellow and green and brown and whatever orcs. Why do we care? They're orcs. Let's go kill them because they're orcs and they're bad. Saruman is having them go out and kill, the riders of Rohan at Helm's Deep, and they're marching on Minas Tirith. So let's kill them before they kill us. I'm okay with that. That's what orcs are for. They're out there so you can for somebody for the players to kill. Many of these so-called art pieces clearly reflect Wizards of the Coast corporate values. Dungeons and Dragons senior game designer Jason Tondro commented in February, there are materials in original Dungeons and Dragons that would never pass our inclusivity reviews today. Well, guys, if you want to see, I did a whole video on this, on what I think of Jason Tondro. This is the one where I'm like, hey, why should Elon Musk buy Hasbro, or why is he thinking about buying Hasbro? Let me tell you right now, Jason Tondro and that whole team should just be fired. Just straight up. The disrespect that they showed to the creators, the giants, Gygax, Kuntz, Bloom, Arneson. It's shocking. Like it was a Snow White moment. These guys are Rachel Zegler. If you guys have seen that, if you haven't, maybe I'll do a video on that. But there are plenty out there. Rachel went out on a marketing tour PR tour for Disney, and Disney let her off the leash. And what did she do? She started tearing into how bad the original Snow White was. I'm going to paraphrase here, but she basically said it was a horrible movie made not for modern audiences, but it really showed its age, and it was made in a different time of misogyny and so she's not sure there's going to be even a prince in it because women don't need princes. Some of them want princes. I, I think Meghan Markle might disagree with you. So some want princes. But anyway, Tandra's off talking about, cultural appropriation. There's no such thing as cultural appropriation. It's that whole concept is stupid because they're always talking about it, but it was okay for Snow White, a European fairy tale, character who the book says her skin is white as snow. It's okay for her to be Colombian. Isn't that cultural appropriation? No, you need to have a European girl with as pale as me in it. Otherwise, it's cultural appropriation. Oh, it's okay to do cultural appropriation if it's white stuff. You just can't do it for against anybody else. And then just don't even get me started on the dwarfs. But anyway, Tondro and team should just be fired. The whole team, boom, gone. That's just how it is. 'Cause the disrespect was just awful. Tondro then added, oh, there's more about Tondro. Tondro then added but that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot of material in this book, and I won't go over all of it, but it would not pass our inclusivity review stay. Well, we couldn't change its history, but what we can do is acknowledge it and show how far we've come, because that's not D&D anymore. He then declared D&D gets more diverse and has a larger audience every day. That is good. The more people play in D&D, the better. I can never find enough people who want to play D&D. There's not enough nerds out there like me. So we need more nerds. So hey, inclusivity is good in D&D. Any way we can get more people to play is good. I would say, the more diverse the game becomes, the more people of different genders and ethnic backgrounds and faiths see themselves in the game. Then they go make their own versions of the game, and more players start to see themselves represented in the game. The more diverse the creators get, the more diverse the players become. That's the way it should be. Now, see, this is also nonsense. D&D is for everyone. I can never think of a time anyone was excluded from D&D. You want to play D&D? Come play D&D. I don't care where you're from, what language you speak, what color you are, what religion you are. D&D is inclusive. Hell, you could be a dwarf. You want to be a dwarf? Go be a dwarf. Hell, you want to be an elf? Go be an elf. Hey, you want to be just a regular human and just go do that? You want to be female? Go do that. And then with house rules, DMs will let you do whatever whatever the DM wants. D&D is just a framework to allow the DM to tell his story and the players to, make their way through the story. And D&D has always been inclusive. I don't. Well, I mean, it's always been for nerds. It's always been people that wanted to play D&D. So from that perspective, maybe it wasn't inclusive. It's all a bunch of nerds playing D&D, but nerds come in all shapes and sizes and colors and backgrounds and everything. So Tandro doesn't know what he's talking about. So this book is very interesting. Oh, they're actually talking about the 50th edition reprints of the original version of D&D that came out in the 70s. That the pamphlets that are pre first edition advanced D&D, and they're good stuff, but they're very short. They're very light on content. There's really not a lot in them because Gygax and team were just getting started. After they converted it from chainmail. If anyone's interested, there's lots of videos out there on that, and I'm not going to do a specific D&D podcast. My podcast is more about just talking about the absurdity of modern life that I see out there, and I just happen to like D&D, so it there was a juxtaposition there. But hey, if you guys want to put it out there, and I can talk. I am somewhat knowledgeable, if you can't tell, on the subject of D&D, and somewhat passionate about it. It was my favorite game growing up as a young boy. And so it still has a very fond place in my heart. So this book is very interesting. I think it really highlights how far the audience has come and how the game has changed over the 50 years, how it's played, who plays it, how it's created in many ways. Yeah, if you can't tell, I've been playing it since the late 70s, early 80s. I'm one of the old OG D&D players. The way that it's created is the part that changed the least, because a huge driver in early D&D was fan creations. That's still true today. And I find it very interesting and very exciting to see how the game has grown, how the audience has grown, how we as creators and designers have learned from the past, both what to do and what not to do. I think this book has a lot to teach us, but it's also just fun to see. So I agree with a little bit of what he says here. So it is exciting to see how the game has grown and the audience has grown. More players is always good. But you know what, Tandro? You and the other modern creators, your versions of D&D cannot hold a candle to the original versions written by the great ones. Um, like I said, the gold standard is AD&D First Edition, and everything that's come since then has been a downgrade in my view. And I've played them all, and I have books and materials from every edition of D&D, just not the sixth edition. And the one that I always come back to play is first edition AD&D. Now it's really hard on, on your characters. Like in the new editions, it's pretty much impossible to die. It's sort of like a video game. You get more lives. You just got to keep rolling, and you got to roll a lot of negative crit checks to die in modern D&D. But it was super easy to die in old D&D. Um, but that's also part of what made it exciting and fun. But yeah, it's definitely no fun when you died in old D&D. But again, the new designers, they're basically trying to improve on something that was already great, and they are not Gygax. They are not Anison. They are not Bloom and Kuntz, Ward. They they just don't have the vision. They aren't the creators. They're just in there trying to make it a little bit better, and they're failing. So guys, you should all be fired. And we need some new designers. Wizards of the Coast executive producer Kyle Brink also appeared on the Three Black Halflings YouTube channel to encourage white males to leave tabletop gaming in general. Like, dude, I saw this in in my other read, and like it's just shocking. There are so many white males that play D&D. Hasbro, do you know this guy said this? If white males stop buying D&D, you're gonna have a revenue problem, right? You know that, right? No matter, I thought we were being diverse and inclusive. So we don't want white males. That's diverse and inclusive, guys. A lot of white males play D&D, and stop the nonsense. Pointing to himself, he said, "This is not the face of the hobby anymore." He's a white male. I'm not the majority of this hobby anymore. And so it's important to me that my team of creators look like my players and have the lived experience that my players do. And I think there's been mistakes made in years past where people assume D&D players were all, white dudes in the basement, which has been a faulty assumption for a lot of years, and gets more false every day. Yeah, that's a completely false assumption. I've played D&D with lots of girls. It's great when you can get a girl to play. Generally, they don't play, but it's not because we don't want them to. It's just because they don't want to. There's just not enough, girls out there who are nerds who want to play, or whose boyfriends play. Most of them, their boyfriends played D&D, and that's how you got them in there. So I would say it's about 80-20, probably about 20% of the player base. When I was playing as a kid, were girls, and and again, we didn't exclude anybody. No, it wasn't white dudes down in the basement. It was whoever would play. And so it was whoever your neighbors were. That's who you played with. And if they all happen to be white dudes, then so be it. They were all white dudes. But If you lived in, a Hispanic neighborhood, everybody is Hispanic. So, like, this is just nonsense. It's just a bunch of friends getting together, on a big table and digging out the paper and pencils and letting their imaginations run wild. So again, these new guys who are in charge of D&D now are, they're interjecting their own racism, their own biases into this. And yeah, because D&D was created by white dudes who lived in Wisconsin mostly, and they're all old white dudes now, the ones that are still alive. All the original founders except Kunst are gone, unfortunately. But the other people who came on with TSR back in the day after the original wave, there's still a few of them left around. And yeah, they're all white dudes, but it's not because of racism. They're white dudes because they all live in Wisconsin. Have you guys been to Wisconsin? There's a lot of white dudes in Wisconsin, and so these were just the people that Gygax knew. Brinked and cleared. And so, in my viewpoint, honestly, guys like me can't leave soon enough for this hobby, and we owe you good games. Nonsense. We want everyone to play, like white, black, brown. Like nobody should be leaving D&D. If you love playing D&D, keep playing D&D. Don't listen to this moron. We owe you good products, so we need to make sure that everyone working on it is real good, and that means not just hiring but developing. When we bring people in who are good, we need to empower them, give them more room to run, give them guidance on what we learned when we created stuff so that they can create great stuff too. No, you didn't create great stuff. Let's go back and have them learn from the masters, Gygax, Anison, those guys. You guys don't hold a candle to them. And then I always hire people smarter than me. Well, that's not hard. I can tell you that right now, just from reading what you're saying here. So I can get out of their way. That's my approach. As long as we stay on a trajectory, the, on this trajectory, the face of D&D will literally change. So this is the face of D&D, and he doesn't like it. So anyway, that's what I thought of this article. It caught my interest, and so yeah, Wizards of the Coast, you're very woke. Uh, obviously, you're hiring all woke folks, and you're taking the wrong direction. I'm telling you right now. You don't want to turn off anyone. Yeah, you want to be inclusive. You want the white guys too, because they want to play your product too. They want to buy your product. They want to play it. They want to play it with their friends, whoever their friends may be. Black, brown, whatever, Asian, whatever. We don't care. I want to play with everybody. You guys are being the racists. So stop, please. All right, thanks everyone. Again, if you enjoyed this or if you didn't enjoy this, give me some comments, like, subscribe. You guys know what to do. Hey, I'll do it again later. Bye.